Thus begins the read-along book club of Jeff VanderMeer's The Southern Reach Trilogy. We had to start at the beginning, so here we are, starting with Annihilation. We're going to read the entire thing. And at the very end of the entire trilogy, we are also going to read Absolution. It's going to be a journey. I hope you will join me along this entire journey so we can all experience this together. I can re-experience it, of course. And so far, I'm liking the experience. But before we get into the book, before we get into chapter 1, which I'm going to cover today, I got to talk about book winners. Now, if you didn't get my message in the comments, because I replied to all of you, yes, that's all of you, because remember in my announcement video when I talked about how this is going to be a different read-along, there's going to be some special contests involved. Well, the prize is book 1, Annihilation. Everybody who entered is going to get a copy, so that includes Raphael 9540, Alibara, Crystal's Bookish Life, Clegios, Pocket Full of Ponder, Dr. Donut Dude, as well as the Mr. Leoniasti. Yes, every single one who entered, surprise, more surprises to come, I swear. You are going to win a copy, either ebook or paperback, whichever you choose, of Jeff VanderMeer's Annihilation. So while other booktube channels out there are begging for money, they're asking you to join their Patreons, to donate to their cause, their dirty, dirty book habit. I'm giving it away, guys. So don't forget. No, I'm just kidding. I love all you guys out there. I appreciate the support. I know I'm a small channel, but I have a great community, and this is a way of saying thank you. And not only that, this is one of my favorite series of all, or I always talk about it, that it is my favorite trilogy of all time. So I'm going to stick with that for now. That's why I'm giving you guys this gift. Hopefully you enjoy it. Hopefully you don't hate the book. Contact me. You can find my email address and my About Me on YouTube. You can always join my Discord. You should totally join my Discord if you're not already there. And you know, let's not beat around the bush anymore. Let's get into this thing. So it is dedicated to Anne. So that is his lovely wife and editor, I believe. And we are starting with Initiation. So first lines for me are incredibly important. So let's read this first one together, shall we? Or the first few. So the tower, which was not supposed to be there, plunges into the earth in a place just before the black pine forest begins to give way to swamp, and then the reeds and wind-gnarled trees of the marsh flats. Beyond the marsh flats and the natural canals lies the ocean, and a little farther down the coast, a derelict lighthouse. Interesting. Do you see a parallel there? What is the first two words and the last word of this entire, it's not quite a paragraph, but I would say it's an introductory section. The tower, the lighthouse. Is there a relationship? Maybe, maybe not. I kind of know. I do know. But we'll see. There's more hints as to that as well, and I swear I'm not going to spoil anything for you guys out there who haven't read it. I'm relearning. I'm not relearning. I'm re-experiencing a lot of this that I have forgotten, and I'm absolutely loving it. So one thing I noticed here when she says our expedition, so that's the very first indication that we are in first-person perspective, which to me is fascinating because to me feels like an introduction in any kind of book, right? Third person, whatever. But then all of a sudden, boom, we're placed into first person a few sentences in, which is different. To me, that's a very different experience. It's distance in a way, right? Normally in a first person book, we immediately know we're in first person. This one, I didn't quite get it right away. So to me, that's interesting. I don't know if it was intentional by Jeff VanderMeer, but I love it. So there were 4 of us. We're establishing who we are going on this adventure with. A biologist, an anthropologist, a surveyor, and a psychologist. And she, speaking, is the biologist. All of us were women this time because chosen as part of the complex set of variables that govern sending the expeditions. There were men sent earlier. I don't remember why they chose women this time, and I don't think we learn it yet in this chapter, but I'm sure we are going to find out. We also learned that all of these people are under hypnosis, which crazy. I love the reveal at the end of this chapter, how that is shown with the spore thing. We'll get there. We'll get there. So our mission was simple: to continue the government's investigation in the mysteries of Area X, slowly working our way out from base camp. The great thing about this entire section here is it's, you know You're thrust into this interesting world with a quote unquote tower and a derelict lighthouse. I love lighthouses. I feel like I should include them in every book of mine because I don't know what it is about them, but I really enjoy them. That's probably part of the reason why I love this book. And you understand who the party is of people. You also understand why they're there. So it's a really brilliant chapter all around. I feel it's a longer chapter, but you learn so much as you go through this versus trying to figure it out down the road. But they also have this weird thing on their belts, a small rectangle of black metal with a glass covered hole in the middle. If the hole glows red, we had 30 minutes to remove ourselves to a safe place, quote unquote. The funny thing there is like, it's this weird kind of, he describes what it looks like, but it's hard for me to picture. Let me know if you guys had a picture in your mind. But we were not told what the device measured or why we should be afraid to glow. It glowed red. In science fiction, which I would classify this as a science fiction novel, we're always, I think as writers, concerned with creating believable worlds, believable technology, terminology. Jeff VanderMeer just kind of throws it out the window because he's like, well, I'm deciding that they're not supposed to know what it's for or what it is measuring. And so I thought that was a great sort of character forward way of doing that. But over time, they had returned to their families. So strictly speaking, they did not vanish. These are talking about the returning people, of course. The other past expeditions, they simply disappeared from Area X and by unknown means reappeared back in the world beyond the border. We learn a little bit later in this chapter too, how they always go home, right? They never go back to the base. They never return, in the way that it might be expected. They return home. So it's like, what is that connection with home? And we'll find out that the biologist has some more mentions of her home too. So long ago, towns had existed here, and we encountered eerie signs of human habitation. Rotting cabins with sunken red-tinged roofs, rusted wagon wheel spokes half buried in the dirt, and the barely seen outlines of what used to be enclosures for livestock, now a mere ornament for layers of pine needle loam. Beautiful description there, but also haunting because there's something about a ghost town or ruins of habitation that is so, it's so, this could have been an alien environment in terms of, I know it's on Earth, but it could have been a weird forest, and it is a weird forest. But to me, what adds that extra layer of creepiness or haunting factor is the fact that people lived here at some point. This Area X kind of spread outward, as I know. I don't know if it's quite described yet in this chapter, but it immediately concocts stories in your mind. Who were these people? What happened to them? Versus it just being someplace out in the middle of the wilderness. And it's you still want to know what happens, but there's less story there. It's kind of like, it reminds me if when I travel, I think nature's great. Mountains are cool and all that, hiking and forest, but there's something cool about seeing ruins. I love it whenever I go to Europe, and I'm so much more excited to see hints of history that somebody lived here versus just natural phenomenon. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Let me know in the comments how you feel about it. There's also, here's to add more creep factor. Far worse, though, is a low, powerful moan at dusk. And that very much reminds me, if you haven't seen the film, there's this crazy mutated bear creature that has this incredibly creepy moan to it. It's part human, it's part animal. Great job, sound designers out there. But the effect of this cannot be understood without being there. The beauty of it cannot be understood either. And when you see beauty in desolation, it changes something inside you. Is that foreshadowing? Desolation tries to colonize you. More foreshadowing, perhaps, because we do know that she breathed in, the biologist, some spores, and it seems to be affecting her regarding hypnosis anyway. And this is when they reach the tower, as the biologist calls it. We know the rest of the party calls it a tunnel, a circular block of some grayish stone, seeming to mix cement and ground up seashells. That's such a cool visual because they're out in the middle of this somewhat pristine wilderness, with the exception of the abandoned houses and so on and so forth. But having this odd structure that seems to make no sense, why it should be there. It almost has this futuristic vibe to it. I picture this weird, out of place, bunker-like concrete thing. But we know, and it brings more questions to mind, and maybe chapter 2 will let us know, what does this thing really look like? But yet, as soon as I saw the staircase, I remembered the lighthouse on the coast. So she's bringing that parallel again. She's wondering, are these things related somehow? The lighthouse and the tower or the tunnel. But one rule for an expedition into Area X was that we were to attempt no outside contact for fear of some irrevocable contamination. So this is talking about how they can't bring cell phones. There's nothing like that. So this is another great way to build. I know I'm going to probably geek out in a writer way. So hopefully you don't mind that. Hopefully maybe you're into it and you'll get some insight into how maybe a writer thinks. But we're always thinking about, well, okay, well, what if the character did this? Well, what if they called home? That's why a lot of people try to destroy the cell phone, and somehow, in some way, in a horror movie, Jeff VanderMeer did the same thing. He made it part of the rules of the story. But nothing that lived and breathed was truly objective, even in a vacuum, even if all that possessed the brain was a self-immolating. Immolating is a word that Jeff VanderMeer loves. You will find it numerous times in this book, and it's so fitting. And it's while I'm not a huge fan of repetition, I feel like it was done for effect, and it's done very well. It's just it's a strange word. Desire for the truth. So besides, we were always strongly discouraged from using names. That's why they're called what they are. So we were meant to be focused on our purpose, and anything personal should be left behind. Names belong to where we had come from, not who we were while embedded in Area X. Another thing I love about this chapter is that we don't start with a briefing. All right, you're going to go out to this place and you're going to go see some crazy shit. We're already there. We don't even see them enter to Area X. There's a brief mention of what it looks like, or the border, I should say. That's what I miss in so many novels, is I like being just pushed into the story immediately. Jeff VanderMeer wastes no time. I feel like even though the biologist is explaining in exposition sort of what happened, why we're here, what we can and cannot do, what the rules are, it's not boring. It's interesting, at least to me. I'm partial, of course. I'm biased. And this is when she's talking about the border. So I no longer can be sure it was the truth. Referring back to this line, that it had been explained that we would need to cross the border with precautions to protect against our minds tricking us. So another great thing that VanderMeer is doing here is he creating an unreliable narrator, sort of like unbeknownst to her, right? Because she's hypnotized. And we learn that her experiences aren't quite what they seem while she's hypnotized. And at the very end, she breaks free of this hypnosis, which I can't wait to get there, because things are going to start really feeling like what they should be. But we also know that she's contaminated with these spores, and is that making her mind see other things? So it's this beautiful mess that Jeff VanderMeer has created, in that we don't ever know what's true, because this is told in first person from a person who is hypnotized, then unhypnotized, but then infected with some kind of spore that may or may not affect her mind. So brilliant idea, a way to sort of, I guess, plug all the holes in any kind of naysayers out there, or people who are trying to find inaccuracies or inconsistencies, because it could all be inconsistent. But if the psychologist somehow became incapacitated and could not lead us across the end of our mission, we had been told to return to wait extraction, whatever that meant. So we'd been told not to look back upon arrival, but I snuck a glance anyway. She did. But remember, she's under hypnosis. It was hazy, indistinct, and already far behind us. Perhaps a gate, perhaps a trick of the eye, just a sudden impression of a fizzing block of light, fast fading. One thing, they do show this. They call it the shimmer in the film. If you haven't seen the film, I recommend it. I don't think it's going to spoil anything, because it's very different stories. But it looks cool in the film. But also, I like what VanderMeer here did, where did she see it? Did she not see it? Is it because of the hypnosis? Is it just because of the alien nature of it? It's not giving us too much. And that's why I love, because I feel like in science fiction, there's so much spectacle, so much visual stuff, which is great. It can be great at times. But to me, this book is all about the mystery of the unknown, which is probably why I love it too, because it harkens back to Lovecraft. It harkens back to Roadside Picnic, which we'll probably talk about more because I'm reading that right now. But what lies I told myself, because my existence back in the world had become at least as empty as Area X. So this is our hint of trauma from the biologist. So he's doing this very early on. I know we're on page 12. That's incredibly important for me anyway, to really get immersed and invested in the characters, to know that, okay, what's going on here? Why is she here? What happened to her home life? With nothing left to anchor me, I needed to be here. So she's compelled to be here for some reason. We don't know. Is it calling her? Is she trying to seek out something that, that is lacking back at home? And we really don't know much about it. It's just, he's planting the question in our mind, the seed in our heads to just continually go forward. But that night we talked about the tower, although the other three insisted on calling it a tunnel. I love that observation, because And we were talking about this on the Discord server today. Why does she view it as a tower? Why does everybody else view it as a tunnel? Is it because she sort of found the connection to the lighthouse? It made her think of the lighthouse. The lighthouse obviously is a tower. Even though this thing is going down, it seems to be kind of a cap, a concrete cap that leads down like an inverted tower, I guess. But everybody else is calling it a tunnel. So why is she perceiving it in one way? Why is everybody else perceiving it another way? Something to think about. Is there some character subtext going on there about her trauma, which was just listed, how she's seeing something differently? And then here we go, italicized again, tower. She keeps mentally correcting them as they're talking about it. But my mind kept returning to a question: what lies hidden at its base? Exactly, because they haven't quite gone in yet. But we do get to go in and find some cool stuff. The anthropologist was giggling a bit out of nervousness at the absurdity of experiencing an emergency situation. I love that image because this is when the wild boar is coming at them and it snaps its head to the side. It's like, oh shit, is it looking at something that they can't see? Can it sense something? And what's cool about this part is that she's unaccustomed, I guess, to this kind of danger, this potential danger. And so she's laughing, but it almost creates this, I don't know, like she's going mad a little bit. It's cool. I think that he had to have been inspired by Lovecraft because there's so much stuff here that reminds me of things that would happen in a Lovecraft story. And yet I had the startling impression of some presence in the way its gaze seemed to turn inward and its head willfully pulled to the left as if there were an invisible bridle. So it seems like it's being chased by something, perhaps the moaning creature that they hear at night. Well, let's move on. The surveyor broke open the weapon stash and gave us each a handgun. We knew that the members of the second expedition, Area X, had committed suicide by gunshot, and members of the third had shot each other, but not until several subsequent expeditions had suffered 0 casualties had our supervisors issued firearms again. We were the 12th expedition. So right there, that's like a, oh shit, 12th expedition. So a lot of times in novels, when we are introduced to the story and the characters that are participating in the story, it's just happened. A bomb went off. People are going in to explore the apocalypse. Something of that kind, where knowing that they're the 12th expedition, that there's been 11 other expeditions, that creates such a sense of history, mystery. To me, it's a great choice to do something like that. I really enjoy that fact because it automatically just really gives you a sense of scope, I guess. So I want you to know that I cannot stop thinking of it as a tower, I confessed. I can't see it as a tunnel. So she admits, in fact, to the rest of the group that she can't do it. But with a strange smirk, almost as if judging us, the surveyor descended until we could only see her face framed in the gloom below. And then not even that. I love this image. That's why I highlighted it. She left an empty space that was shocking to me, as if the reverse had actually happened, as if a face had suddenly floated into view out of the darkness. So ghostly, so haunting, creepy, beautiful imagery. So the surveyor's going down there, and her face is almost seems briefly superimposed on the darkness. I thought that was a great way, maybe foreshadowing as well. I don't remember, thankfully. But walls, talking about the walls on the interior, which were an off-white and devoid of any adornment. This was surprising to me because I totally forgot it again. It's very similar to the film, I guess, because when they go, well, they don't go into, it's different that there's not like this quote unquote tower in the forest, but they go to a location that has very off-white walls, which I won't spoil for you. I don't know, there's something creepier about the absence of something than it being something there, something that's detailed or monstrous or anything like that. So I know I keep gushing about this book. I apologize, but I really love Jeff VanderMeer's restraint, but I think that restraint works. It works better than, what the alternative would be. But here we go. She's talking about this interesting text that she finds. I saw what I first took to be a dimly sparkling green vines progressing down into the darkness. I had a sudden absurd memory of the floral wallpaper treatment that had lined the bathroom of my house. So you were having a connection here, right? She's finding a personal connection because she needed, in italicized, she needed to be here. So bathroom of my house when I had shared it with my husband. Then as I stared, the vines, in quotes, resolved further. And I saw that they were words in cursive, the letters raised about 6 inches off the wall. So this is crazy. These are words. They appear to be created by some kind of growth, some kind of fungal, or I think they talk about here, vine-like growth. It's so strange. It's so organic. It's beautiful but scary at the same time. And this is what it says: "Where lies the strangling fruit that came from the hand of the sinner? I shall bring forth the seeds of the dead to share with the worms that dot dot dot." Then the darkness took it. Words, words? The anthropologist said, "Yes, words." And this is when we find out what they're made of exactly, which looked to the layperson like rich green fern-like moss, but in fact was probably a type of fungi or other eukaryotic, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, organism. And also a smell of rotting honey. And I kind of spoiled myself a little bit because I was like, I've never smelled rotting honey. What does that smell like? So I Googled it. And I think I got results of yeasty smell, sour smell, et cetera, et cetera. But then also that took me to a Reddit post where rotting honey is used as a term to describe a smell in the second book as well. And that's just, I said, okay, well, I'm going to stop here. I don't want to keep spoiling myself. Interesting connections. I'm really curious, and I'm glad we're going to read this one carefully so I can pick up all this stuff, because I get so much out of books when I read them this way. But other things existed in this miniature ecosystem. Most of these creatures were translucent and shaped like tiny hands embedded by the base of the palm. So now we have some kind of sense of alien life almost. But they burst open and a tiny spray of golden spores spewed out. I pulled back, but I thought I had felt something enter my nose, experienced a pinprick of escalation in the smell of rotting honey. There it is again. So she is infected, ladies and gentlemen, but thankfully right here. No hint in their tone of having seen the spores erupt into my face. I had been so close. The spores had been so tiny, so insignificant. I shall bring forth the seeds of the dead. I love that because she's trying to reassure herself that the spores had been so tiny, so insignificant. What could they possibly do? Well, we're about to find out. But a calm had settled over me. A competing sensation, as if I couldn't breathe or didn't want to. Interesting. Was clearly psychological, not physiological. So she automatically, even though she breathed these things in, she has a sense of calm. But this competing sensation of almost wanting to die, maybe become something else. But I also knew that if I stayed there much longer, I might experience a compulsion to go back down the stairs to continue reading the words, and they would have to physically restrain me. And I did not know what I would do then. Interesting, because we know she has a handgun now. So to be that drawn back, being consciously aware that she would be that drawn back, and then it could lead into something that she doesn't know. That's quite interesting, because is it the spores taking over? Is it her curiosity as a biologist? We don't quite know. And then she has a moment of vertigo, a kind of panic for a moment, and in which the walls suddenly had a fleshy aspect to them, as if we traveled inside of the gullet of a beast. And this is what I'm wondering, is this what it's going to be like when she really sees it, when they really go back? I'm so excited to get to chapter 2. I'm probably going to start reading it tonight. Even though I didn't know what the words meant, I wanted them to mean something so that I might more swiftly remove doubt, bring reason back into all of my equations. What the hell does that mean? She's struggling. She's trying to figure herself out. She's searching for something here to solve her trauma, which is crucial, of course, to characterization, in my opinion. And I'm looking forward to finding out exactly what happens, or what had happened in her past relationship. Because again, it's been a long time. Don't remember. There was also something else moving ponderously through the reeds, but it was closer to the lighthouse and deep in cover. So this is some strange creature that they keep saying that is approaching, maybe listening, making sounds. But they're not really scared of it, because the beast in the marshes now seem like an old friend compared to the tower. So even though this is kind of a creepy thing that they don't know what it is, they kind of mock it. And then they're making sounds, calling back. But we stopped calling back when the intensity of its moans heightened in a way that suggested anger, as if it knew we were mocking it. Oh, man. So it has kind of a intelligence, perhaps, or not. And here we go again. She is internally correcting tower, not tunnel. And this is when the flip is switched, everybody. The psychologist, all of them gathered around. Then she abruptly stood and said 3 words: consolidation of authority. Authority, which is the second book title, anyway. Immediately the surveyor and the anthropologist beside me went slack. You will continue to see a structure that is made of coquina, did I say that right? And stone. So what is that? I didn't know what that word was. I looked it up, and it is exactly what she described seeing originally, meaning a mixture of stone or concrete and shells, seashells. That immediately made me think, oh crap, what is it really going to be? What level of control could she exert over us? They had made me immune to the psychologist's hypnotic suggestions, meaning the spores, of course. So she is free. Now she is talking about the interviews that she witnessed before of past expeditions. They had experienced no unusual phenomenon while in Area X, taken no unusual readings, and reported no unusual internal conflicts. But after a period of time, each one of them had the intense desire to return home and to set out. But they've gone straight home. And this, to me, is cool, right? Is why are they seeking out home? What is it? Is it something personal? Is there a reason? Did they get infected? And for whatever reason, whatever they're infected with wants them to infect their family. What does it all mean? I have no idea. Or are they so traumatized that they want to go back home? They don't care about anything else. They want their safe place. But if their words seemed a little flat, then this went with the kind of general calm, the almost dreamlike demeanor each had returned with. See, that's even creepier, right? They didn't come back thrashing and screaming of madness. No, they were calm, extremely calm and collected. So are they them? Are they something else? Are they zombies? We don't know yet. All of them had at some point drawn the lighthouse or written about it. So clearly, if you didn't get it yet, the lighthouse is going to be a very significant part of the story as well as the entire trilogy, but I'm not going to spoil anything for you yet. At the time, I was seeking oblivion, and I sought in those blank, anonymous faces, even the most painfully familiar, a kind of benign escape, a death that would not mean being dead. That is a great chapter, everybody. I don't know what else to say. I love that chapter. So great. Has a creepy factor, mystery factor. You know why they're there. You know what they're doing. It makes you ask more questions about what happened before she was hypnotized, and now we're going to find out now that she's unhypnotized, potentially, what's going to happen to her that she's breathing these spores. Question after question after question. But I would love to hear it down below in the comments, how you're feeling about it so far. Is there anything that I didn't bring up that you would like to talk about? Because that's what this is for, everybody. And again, join the Discord if you haven't already. Highly recommend it. We're all there. We're all excited. We're already talking about this book, and I can't wait to make video 2 of chapter 2 of Annihilation. I think this might be a few days out. Keep an eye on my community posts. I think I'm going to try to let you guys know ahead of time when I'm going to do this. Normally I do it weekly because I think I might not have enough time to do a weekly video before Absolution is out. Might be more frequently, but also this book is extremely short and I'm extremely eager to get through it. But if you guys have any comments on the pacing, if you want it faster, slower, or if a weekly pace is fine, happy to continue in that pace. But anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me. And I can't wait to see or read about what you think so far. And I'll see you in the next one.